Hi, this is Josh,
And this is Matt.
and this is the Call to the Brewman's Bottle.
The Call to the Brewman's Bottle.
So here we are again, episode 7. Things are just snowballing right along. I've had a really, really good week this week. How about you, Matt? How's your week been?
I've had a pretty good week, man.
Man, especially here at the end, we've been doing a lot of grilling out with the Memorial Day holiday going on. I'd say we grilled out probably 4 times total, and this last time here at our house was a pretty large success. One of my favorite things to do is to have just a couple of friends over, get some beers, and make some burgers or some chicken or something. And speaking of burgers, let's just take a second and give some praise to the Mastercrafted Bacon Cheddar Burger.
It's amazing. Infused with everything that you need inside of a burger.
I mean, you just cut it out of the package and put it on the grill. It's the best thing. And my brother introduced me to it this weekend. He had a nice grill out for one of his buddies' bachelor parties. We all just sat around making s'mores, and he had some bad burgers. But anyways, so I've had a great week, and as we take this jaunt into the entertainment industry this week, we've got a lot of really cool things that we want to talk with you guys about. So let's just jump right in and let's hit up some gaming, man. What's on your gaming radar, Matt? What's up this week?
Well, I've focused a lot on D&D this week, so
Yeah.
tabletops is definitely my main focus. I did notice that the new WoW edition will not allow flight.
Yeah, you sent me that article in a text message this week because you know how me and WoW go way back. But I have to say, man, that really just kind of sinks in, nails in the coffin for WoW for me. Flying in WoW was something that they didn't immediately bring it in all of their expansions, but eventually you got the opportunity to take your cool mount and fly all around and have all these cool meeting places with you and your friends. And Draenor is beautiful. The expansion is spectacular. And I guess they have their reasons for saying they're not going to let people fly around in it. And it's not really a game breaker like I make it sound, but it just makes me even more sad about that game in particular. And anytime I sit down and I say, well, which subscription am I going to activate and play for a month? That's just more pushing me toward Final Fantasy 14. It's just, in my opinion, at this point, it's a better game.
So I also noticed that you were playing Witcher 2 as well. Why don't you give a little insight on how you feel the first 48 hours of the game?
Well, let's just talk a little bit about the fact that I don't have a computer that can run Witcher 3. So when I reach that situation in gaming, and it's happened to me quite a few times, I will eventually get a computer that can play these games and get on all the games that we talk about that I'm interested in. But right now, I just don't have the option, even though I've talked about Witcher 3 and how awesome I think it is and how much I'm going to buy that game. I just can't right now. So we had our friend Kyle come through, and he dropped off The Witcher 2. And I like to go back, and I've been told you don't have to play The Witcher 2 to really enjoy Witcher 3, but it's letting me in on the type of game that they're giving us a sequel of. But anyway, so in the first 48 hours, to answer your question, the game itself is extremely difficult. But let me just tell you, first impression, hard game. You've watched me die God knows how many times.
Yeah, it reminds me almost of Dark Souls.
I would say it's reminiscent of Dark Souls, but I'm nowhere near giving it that level of difficulty. Dark Souls, I can't play Dark Souls without assistance from some type of a breakdown in a video or something like that, and I'm able to feel my way through this game. But difficulty aside, mechanics-wise and the way the game plays and the way you manipulate your character is extremely in-depth in this game. I don't know about the other one before it, or if it has anything to do with that, but I know that if The Witcher 3, and we've talked about how in-depth it's going to go with the character progression, if it is anything like this is something for the person that really wants to get in and play with numbers. There's all kinds of statistics that you're playing around with. And it also makes you juggle exactly how your character is from fight to fight.
Yeah, the statistics that you described remind me a lot of Morrowind from Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, it breaks it down into percentages for every single little minute detail of your character. And then as you're going through the alchemy and you're making different potions for your character, it takes the focus off of improving your ability to make potions. Your character can already do that, but it takes the focus onto the different types of potions that you can go out and discover how to make. It's almost as if the way to make potions is really common knowledge within this game, but it's just when you get the formula is when you get to be able to make the really, really cool ones. And then also the potions have a certain toxicity, so you have to juggle which type of potion you want active on you at any given time.
And that's exciting to hear because they did announce that Witcher 3 had a very in-depth potion system.
And I can definitely see how they would get one from playing Witcher 2. But off of that a little bit, I'll say that one of the negative things I've noticed about The Witcher 2 is the control system. Your ability to control your character it's just so in depth that it's difficult. Everything down to what type of sword you're deciding to wield at the time, which magic spell you have active, because you can only have one active at each time, but you can freeze combat and pick different ones and stuff like that, which I have my own personal opinions about that. I do enjoy games that will let you kind of stop the combat for a second and get an idea of what's going on, but the way the game plays in Witcher and the way you're controlling your character in such a hack and slash fashion while manipulating traps and special items and then the one spell that you have active, it really does give it a level of difficulty, and it really doesn't make it very, at least as far as I can tell in the first 2 days, helpful to stop the combat.
So kind of like Shadow of Mordor, but with many options in its combat.
Yeah, Shadow of Mordor is a game we actually haven't talked a whole lot about, but both of us played extensively. And it was a wonderful game, but this game is very reminiscent of that without the Assassin's Creed combat. It's like you take Dragon Age style. Nope, strike that. Not Dragon Age style. It's like you take the basic hack and slash of any combat system from a hack and slash game, and you threw it in on that system, where Shadow of Mordor has the more Assassin's Creed style combat engine. Getting a little bit on from the gameplay of The Witcher 2, I wanted to talk something about The Witcher 3 because I talked about how my computer couldn't run it. I actually stumbled across an article that was talking about how on the console, The Witcher 3 has trouble maintaining a steady 30 FPS.
30 to 32, right?
Something like that. It didn't seem like the best article, but it does give me a reason to talk about something that I've been really wary of buying a console with the next-gen systems when it comes to the PS4 or the Xbox One. Our whole house has.
Well, we all know, and growing up in the video game industry, that there is always a jump with a system, but there is also always a jump in the technology in the gaming itself.
Right.
And sometimes they butt heads a little bit, and I feel like what you're saying on The Witcher 3, where it has some trouble running on consoles, Doom 4 is another one they've mentioned that is going to be pushing the limits of any console other than computers.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it just makes me wonder where I'm going to fit gaming into my budget. Am I going to fit it into my budget on a level with my consoles? Or am I just going to let the next-gen console fall to the wayside and upgrade my computer?
Well, see, that is a troubled option because really all the weight for you weighs on the computer because all you have to do is upgrade some parts where
Right.
you would be buying an entire new system on the other hand.
Right. And I feel like it's a little soon for that discussion to be happening with the PS4 and the Xbox One. Because we've got, if you've got a game like The Witcher, so many people are going to want to play it. So many people throw down on the console and it lags. I mean, how are we going to fix that issue when it comes to, is it a hardware thing or is it the developers making a game on the computer where it's going to run and it's going to look great and then they get it on a console and it doesn't, it's a little clunky? Or, that just makes me want to keep going into my computer. I've said in the last episode that I'm almost positive I'm going to buy a console, and I'm still really close to buying a console. But when I hear things like that, where the games that I really want to play are having issues that are completely separate from gameplay and things that I feel like I could get over. It's something like a hardware issue on the console. To me, that's a huge deal, and it really gives me even more trepidation for buying the console itself. One more thing that we were talking about in the wonderful world of video games, we talk a lot on the podcast, or not a lot, but we really enjoy esports. Something in the world of esports that I want to bring some attention to that is going on as we're recording the podcast right now is the Dota International Qualifier. I want to point some direction at the Dota Internationals because that's what got me into esports in the first place. This is the end-all, be-all Dota tournament right now, where all the best teams come together and really throw down. Even somebody like me that's really casually into MOBAs, I really only go into the leagues as my skill level will take me, and it does not ever take me very far.
I really like each region consists of 2 round-robin groups of 5 teams. The top 2 teams from each group will advance to a double elimination bracket, with the round-robin first-place team starting in the upper bracket and the runner-up starting in the lower bracket. The winner of each region will be invited to the International. The 4 runner-ups will compete against each other in a wild card series in Seattle for the final 2 spots of the tournament.
Well, see, what's really cool about all that is that here pretty soon you're probably going to be able to buy the compendium within Dota, and you as a player can participate in all these brackets and pick the people who you might think are going to win. So if you've been watching through the qualifiers and there's this team that's doing really well and you've really liked them and you feel like they're going to do well, and you pick them in your compendium, you'll get things for getting them right. It just brings everybody into this tournament together to watch everything that's going on. And buying the compendium is very interactive with it. And one thing that they're just now getting on with actual sports like baseball, football, what have you, is how interactive it can be. I mean, you have the certain packages where you get the app on your phone and you can chat while you're watching and make fantasy picks while you're playing weekly fantasy tournaments or what have you. This type of stuff is where actually within the game that you play, while the tournament of that game is going on, you're going to be able to interact while playing, watching, doing whatever it is that you do. And watching these tournaments is absolutely captivating, even for the most basic player.
I really like how you have 2 choices. You can either buy the $10 compendium that will give you advanced play-by-play as it grows, or you can pay $25 and go straight to level 50, have everything unlocked, so you can get the wide view of everything inside the compendium itself.
Right. And that's just yet another thing where you have options for your skill level or your interest level. And I really want to talk about the fact that when you're sitting down and watching these games, it's a completely different experience from your basic sit down and play Dota or sit down and play LoL. You're getting to sit down and watch sportscasters in a way who are giving you a play-by-play. They're telling you the names. They're adding a certain energy to it when they're talking. It's just really neat to watch. Don't you agree?
I mean, I like just plain and simple that it's on TV because for me, that is the first major step in the climb of bringing it to the surface of everyone that actually participates in any type of visual performance. I kind of want to talk about the stuff that you receive inside the compendium. You earn compendium coins by completing coin charms, finishing challenges, earning trophies, random drops. You can also go ahead and predict who is going to win, and if you predict correctly, you also get coins out of that. You get new loading screens, emoticons. You get a new HUD skin, taunt treasure.
Well, what are these challenges that you just referred to? You said that for completing challenges, you get coins.
Challenges within the game, like playing with certain characters and beating it a certain amount of times, or playing with a style of character. You know what I mean by like a carry or a support, and so on and so forth. And that's how you actually level up your compendium. Let's go ahead and mention the current prize pool of this international. It's sitting right now at $9,115,000.
Right. That's the prize pool that these guys are going to be playing for a chunk of. Or is that like the grand prize? Because I know throughout the entirety of the international tournament, there's a whole bunch of prizes.
That is the final prize. And remember that everyone that's participating in Dota right now, 25% of all compendium sales go to the international overalls prize pool. So the more that the players put in, the more money that these winners will make.
And that right there is an example of the success of gaming right now on an esports level, is the fact that so many people are wanting to participate in it. This is just a really fun way to supplement your video gaming pastime. It's just awesome. I'm really having a blast with it. I can't think of too much more on the video game atmosphere to talk about, and you definitely referenced some things that I want to talk about when it comes to we have done a really good job at replacing our weekly D&D session.
So, what campaign do you want to talk about first, man? We can talk about Princes of the Apocalypse, or we can talk about Mines of Phandalin.
Well, I want to talk about the Mines of Phandalin because of that's the starter set. That's really the way that people are supposed to get into D&D, and you and I are taking a part in a session right now with a plethora of new people who've never touched a character sheet before.
By the way, in this campaign, everyone, Josh is playing the monk, and I am playing the warlock.
Right, and that's on a 7-player campaign, correct?
Correct.
A monk, a warlock, a cleric, 2 fighters, a rogue, and a wizard.
Yep.
And all of the people that are playing except one, this is really their first serious run at a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. And the one that has played before, I think that was her first serious run at a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. And these people, when it comes to what we've talked about with the new 5th edition of D&D coming out, these people are being given such a wonderful opportunity to get into D&D, and it's happened within their first few sessions that they are taken by the game. I know personally, it took more than one campaign to really get me wanting to read and know everything I could about D&D. And every time these people come back to this session, they come back with more information on their character, more of how it's supposed to work when it comes to interacting with the campaign. And I think that that's awesome that these people are having such an easy time getting involved in it.
It's really nice to sit back and not only watch a large campaign open up and blossom, for me and you to be old school experienced gamers and watch these new guys come together, form the party. You know, the realization that they're not just some guy with a pencil and paper. They're more than that. They have a character that they can influence the entire world with.
I really think it's great that all these people are able to come in and realize that all these different games that they've played when it comes to fantasy games and stuff like that have been rooted in their imagination. And it's not so much just your ability to sit down and see it that makes it fun, but it's your ability to wrap your head around how that character can interact with the world. And just like you said, you know, that as they play through, things will change because of things that they did. Anything that I think Bethesda or any of those companies that have put out really good role-playing games on the computer, it's all from this model of in Dungeons & Dragons, depending on how you and your character perceive the quest, that's how things are going to end up going on. And it's all going to have something to do with your imagination, the way that you've been able to perceive your character. But also with having, because I don't participate in very large sessions as a rule most of the time, but with having up to 7 people always doing different things, it's giving me such a bird's eye view of the way all the different classes in the 5th edition function. One of my favorite ones to watch right now is the fighter, because we have 2 of them, and they're 2 very, very different classes, even though they're both fighters. One of them uses a bow and wears light armor, and the other one uses a battle axe and wears heavy armor. And they both just dominate the fighting, just the way a fighter is supposed to.
I really like how they can change their utility if they need to switch up, even with ranged. The strong guy can use ranged if he wants. Let's say like a javelin, and I really like how the other fighter, if he has to get in close combat, he has hit miraculously with that bastard sword, and on a crit, that's 4d6.
Oh yeah, dude. The great sword has always been like the best critical weapon just about, and it's definitely showing in this game when it's got that extra damage roll when you're doing the double damage on a critical. He does some awesome things. And another thing that the particular DM of that session has gotten us on is that whenever you get a kill, he tells us to describe our kill. And that adds such a element of involvement in the actual happening of the game. When you're a player and you get to say, okay, well, I've just killed something. How do I want it to happen? I think that's another thing that's really getting the newer people involved. That's something I'd never seen before, but it really makes you want to get that kill because you've been fighting this guy and you want to do this to him. Or he's done certain things to you and you want to get him in this way. But to get back to the actual mechanic of the fighter, I really enjoy exactly what you said, where their ability to participate in melee or ranged, they're just fighters. And they can focus on either melee or ranged, but they never really lose their ability in either. One of them just gets the bonus. When we're talking about the campaign itself, the starter set, I really like how the starter set campaign and all the different campaign books that we've seen give you such a definite quest to go on. This is exactly where you're going, but it gives the DM the opportunity to bring in so many different side quests based on the backgrounds, what the different players have brought to the table when they see that they can have certain trinkets on them that they do random rolls in from the books, which is new to 5th edition. That just gives them the ability to be that character in that campaign setting, and then they all can link together even at the end. And that's something that you've told me about, how they're built for different level ranges and you can link them together in a life for the characters that are playing.
5th edition has definitely done a good job when it comes to the background. The random background rolls, that should have always been there. I understand that it is a role-playing game, and it does take away from some of the imagination because it has created imagination from someone else, but it gives more avenues for new players, and that's what I like to focus on, new players. I don't care much about old players. Old players are going to play when they feel like it, and that's it. But when it comes to new players, hook them. Be a good hook.
Well, and it doesn't require so much to make a in-depth character as it did in the other editions. A new player can come in and, like you've said, to roll the set presets, but an old player can come in with their knowledge of the world and make their own. That's one thing that I don't think we've referenced at all, really, but you're not bound to these backgrounds. You can totally come up with your own background that you want to come up with, but it has to fit this model of they have ideals, they have personality traits, they have flaws, and you have to come with something that fits that part of the description for your character to fit into this campaign world. And I think that that's, like you said, it should have always been there. It should have always been a mechanic within the game that your character is an individual. And now that it's a wonderful hook for old, new, intermediate players alike. It's just right in this 5th edition, and I think that we've seen a little bit of a trend of editions in our tabletop games only lasting maybe a year or two now. This is one I want to have for a long time, and I think they've got a lot of ground that they can build on with it. We've given a lot of light on that session and talking about that, other than the fact that as we're going through the world in this quest, it's also, because it's the starter set, got a lot of things that are opening up the different parts of the story that you're supposed to want to read into. It's a really great introduction, and in my opinion, it's in one of the best places right there on the Sword Coast for somebody to come into the Forgotten Realms.
On the last session, everyone, the team came together and decided to go check out Rumors of Zombies up at this ruined tower. After we had figured out the situation, the situation being a necromancer that was just trying to study by himself. We thought about maybe killing him.
Well, yeah.
Not because he's a necromancer, but for different personal reasons. And this, comes from the background on some characters, which is really good. It gives them motives. So instead, we decided to kill some orcs for him so he wouldn't have to have zombies, and we went the neutral path instead.
And those were orcs that we had been asked to kill otherwise.
It was two birds with one stone on that. We reached the gorge, and there's a cave, and there's a single guy outside, and we decide to camp a little bit until nighttime so we can get our bearing on a sneak attack.
Right.
At that point, the rogue, me, and the monk, Josh's character, decide to descend down upon them. And luckily, our surprise round with our range attacks took them out. Sadly, though, the fighter decided to shoot the bow with the nat 20. The arrow was knocked extremely hard and flew into the cave, alerting them. And that's when everyone got to experience, for the first time, fighting a large character. And their reaction was amazing. To see this 10-foot-tall ogre come out of the cave and just start trouncing on people was intense.
Well, and they played it magnificently. If I hadn't known that this was their first time, I don't think that I would have been able to call it from that particular session. These guys outright, all the support stayed in support position. When it came down for the cleric to blur the line between support and tank, that's exactly what she did. I'm not trying to brag too much on myself because I think I kind of failed in the beginning when I put a fire out and there's a bunch of humans in the party who get blinded when there's no light at night versus a bunch of things with dark vision. So had I not messed that up, I did a really good job of holding off people as the rogue that can take more hits in the monk class in what they do, and then everybody, the fighters stepped up to take hits. It was like clockwork, and everybody had a lot of fun. Everybody enjoyed what their character was doing. I'm going to give props to the wizard in sitting there and learning how to manipulate her spells for the first time and really
how to dodge in
down.
and out of combat effectively, which was really nice.
That was a wizard that should not have lived. That wizard spent too much time in melee in past sessions, but now they're figuring it out, and it's really, really fun. So let's move on to the smaller session, because that one I think has just as much value as the larger session, where it's just you, myself, and our roommate Cody and our buddy Kyle just coming together for the most veteran D&D players that really we know to get together at the same time and taking on a level 1 to 20 campaign book with the goal of going from start to finish.
This is the one where I'm DM. Josh is playing a wizard that has a quirk about his attitude. He's a
definite ulterior motive.
Definitely some seedy motives, but okay. I was more focused on the fact that you're a bookworm, and I love how you get excited about learning new things, maybe new script, new spells, history. It doesn't matter. Your guy really soaks it up. And then you've got Cody, this paladin that's never really fought before.
Right. And fresh pally blood.
Fresh pally. From level 1, he was kind of he was hesitant and he was shaky. He really didn't even want to fight, but he understood that he was a paladin, and that was his job. Right. And now you guys are level 3, and he's like more vicious. He's headlong into combat.
Right.
And then of course you've got Kyle, the cleric.
We talked about the Tempest cleric in depth.
And the in-depthness was completely correct.
Absolutely.
Level 1, Kyle comes in. He's smashing heads with the warhammer.
Oh yeah.
He's being valiant. He's fighting these dark creatures. And then finally, the last boss that you guys had fought, which I'll let you describe the dungeon from a player's perspective. But he opened up.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Tempest cleric on that last boss. We'll get to that. from the beginning of the session, we really didn't have any idea of what we were doing. We had played very much the preliminary session from the campaign book, where we were getting our bearing in the town, realized the mayor wasn't going to help us a whole lot in the specific town we were in. We discovered that there were people being infected by swamp blight. We went to another guy who really didn't seem to care what was going on, until finally we gained a little bit of direction and went to a tavern that was dark and definitely shouldn't have been dark. It was supposed to be the most popular tavern in the town. And anybody that was in the town was in the one mead hall that we went to in the beginning, which is where the campaign starts.
Yeah, the Sleeping Maiden.
So you stumble into a mead hall on a really crazy rainy night, which if you have a wizard, which we do, we realize that the rain is not natural. It's not coming from anything that this area does not receive downpours like this. But anyway, so we go up on this inn that is dark after figuring out that this swamp blight's affecting the town and that this inn looks abandoned. We get up in there and there are assassins in there, and we find out after fighting these assassins that they are clearing the townspeople and giving them the swamp blight and dumping them down a well, not to know anything about what's going on down in the bottom of this well. I got to use a completely different tactic after we figured out where the well was and saw what was going on, where the paladin used command and I used charm person. I want to talk a little bit about charm person as a spell in general, being something where you can take a completely different avenue of involvement in an encounter as a wizard with charm person. You can negate combat for your entire party. You can stop people from running away. You can get information, which is exactly what I did. And it just really changes the entire way that you're sitting there and you're perceiving an encounter with the enemy. Because these guys were definitely enemies.
And even though it ended with you guys killing both of them, it it began well. Your charm person went off. You completely negated one of the guys out of the combat. And then,
Right.
of course, the paladin used command, which pulled the other guy away from the boat so he couldn't escape.
Right.
And then eventually you guys were put in a situation where you could control the combat completely.
Oh, yeah. And just really the encounter in general. It was on the player's end of the table, which on D&D, it's very rarely on the player's end of the table. And that's just the way the game's built. But moving on a little bit, we ended up climbing down the well. And this is one thing that we didn't mention about my character that I think is a really cool element. My character's 72 years old. He's an old-ass man, and he's very afraid to die. That's a huge deal to him. He wants to stay alive. He spent most of his life around death, being given the role in his particular wizard cloister that he did. So he just really doesn't want anything to do with anything that could kill him. But anyway, so we tie a rope off. We're climbing down this well. We send the paladin down first. Of course, my character slips because he's an old man, and I fall and get caught by the strong paladin. But this is where the session really picks up. At the bottom of this well, there is a dungeon, and it is basically a necromancer's study, which a necromancer's study is always a dungeon with wonderful little torture rooms and skeletons and coffins and things like that. Well, being the type of wizard that my character is, I have some necromantic spells. And I can't do much to most of the people in this dungeon. So we're running through and we're trying to fight our way through. We make it through the first room. My character sees a whole bunch of ruins and gets all kinds of excited. It gets my character really excited anytime he sees a magic he doesn't know. And he starts taking it down in his books the way he does. We end up getting a 2-hour rest out of one of those little study sessions, which really helped us out.
I think that was specifically the room where you found the boarded up bodies that could communicate with people that were still alive. They were bound by spells. And
Right,
then
the
you fought
necromancer who casts the spell on their body can communicate with the person.
Well, your character doesn't know exactly who the person was, but
Right.
yeah, it can communicate with someone. And then, of course, you fought the cultist monks, which was an exciting fight. You guys actually split up in the hallways, which was cool.
Oh, yeah, and monks in general, that was really awesome fighting them because they're fast. You have to control them. Completely different combat that I'm used to.
So go ahead and talk about the first big guy that you fought.
The mini boss.
Yeah,
it's just something that didn't seem very common in D&D. I don't see a lot of mini bosses in D&D. But anyway, so we spend a little time in this dungeon, and we get to the first room where it's very obviously going to be a big old fight. And this fight is with a Minotaur skeleton that's been summoned long, long ago. And it's not just any old undead. This had been reincarnated in a completely different light. He was cognitive. He could speak to us. He had a whole backstory that went with him. But being the thug nasty party that we are, we didn't care.
You don't care about what he was. You care about him being dead.
Exactly. So we fought him. One of the things that's different about this particular guy that we didn't know during the session. So our two fighters, which we have our paladin and cleric combo, go up and start. What do you do to a skeletal minion? You hit it with bludgeoning.
I mean, if you're asking an old school player, yes, and
Absolutely.
you don't use piercing.
Exactly. Well, we go up and we start hitting this thing with bludgeoning, and I'll let the DM tell you what that was doing.
Well, in 5.0, bludgeoning is half damage, and he is immune to, I believe, poison and necrotic.
Oh, yeah, the two spells that I had prepared to go and try to murder him with.
So you have this, I think he had like 70 or 75 HP.
Yeah.
But in total, they had to do, I can't remember, it was 110 or 100.
Something
Yeah,
damage.
it was ridiculous. It was well over 100.
Yeah, and my damage counted as 0. So we did more damage than you would have even needed to do if you were just doing half damage on his ass.
And I was rolling so low against you guys, and he has this crazy sweep attack, and if he has more than one person on him, he just hits everyone, and he has this oversized two-handed battle axe that's got, magical properties to it, but sadly, every time I'd hit the paladin, I would do minimum damage.
Yeah, you roll a 1 but do 4 damage. So anyway, so we downed this guy, found out later on out of session that there was actually a way to converse with him and get him to talk with you and tell you about things. Had I chosen to whip out Charm Person, he would have spoken with me about the fact that he is a summon. He's not necessarily even like a raise dead spell, and his master has neglected him for forever, and all he wants is to be released. But anyway, so we move on in the dungeon, spend the night in the dungeon, which is something that in D&D always blows my mind, but we spend the night in the dungeon, and then we end up going to find the boss of the dungeon, who is a changeling necromancer thing. He had a whole bunch of different abilities.
He was a Volm. He was a specific character. If you could describe him though, the best, he is a necromancer / warlock spellcaster.
Okay. Well, he's in his altar room, which anytime you fight a magic user in their altar room with their element around them, it gets kind of difficult. And this particular element that was around him was water. Well, what did we bring to the fight? A Tempest Cleric. So we walk in the room, and we have a really nice row with Volm, and everything's going swimmingly. I mean, the group composition is working wonderfully together. The role play is going to end up getting really, really fun later on, because all of our characters come from completely different backgrounds as characters. And so we're in this dungeon this particular session, and we're fighting this warlock, and the Tempest Cleric runs up, and he has had enough. This is day 2 of Necromancer Dungeon, and he's done with it. He walks right into this guy's water, which is slowing his movement by half because of some crazy thick property that he's giving it or something like that. He's summoning elementals out of it. The Tempest Cleric goes into the metal, has had enough, and just uses what is it? Does he cast Thunder Wave? Thunder Wave.
I think it's Thunder Wave, because the water actually separates, and he hits the paladin.
Yeah, he hits the paladin. Does not care, and the paladin has been poking fun at him the whole time for reasons in the paladin's background. But the paladin's been really trying to rub this cleric the wrong way. And when the cleric's fed up, he does not care. He walks right into the middle of the monster so that he can hit everybody, uses Thunder Wave, does really good in controlling everybody to let our party get into position, and then we end up just clearing the dungeon. We didn't participate in many of the story arcs of the dungeon, but we just cleared it as our characters would have done, And at the end, we started the session at level 2. We end the session at level 3. Had a blast playing these characters. The 2 sessions that I'm involved in right now, I'm playing 2 characters that I've never played before. They're so much fun. And it's just, I really can't describe how much I think this D&D is quite possibly the best D&D that's been put out. You were telling me a little bit about some TV that you've been watching recently. We've really just murdered some gaming. I know gaming this week has been just huge for me.
It's been great. It's been solid, the way gaming should be.
So solid. But you were telling me a little bit about a show that's going to come out that I know both of us as nerds do not enjoy Superman. But there's a Supergirl show coming out. And you showed me some of the trailers. What is it, on CBS?
Yeah, CBS. I think they're getting rid of The Big Bang Theory, and Supergirl will be replacing it.
Well, I'm not going to complain. There will always be reruns of The Big Bang Theory going on.
It's such a shallow show.
I'm not, dude, I just don't like it. I really feel like it's for the people that
don't understand nerdom, so it can be introduced in a nice little pamphlet to them.
Being nerdy isn't the same thing that it was way back in the day. We're definitely not as awkward as we used to be. It's just, I really feel like that was a slapstick show, and I if I gave it a chance, real chance, like I have with Naruto recently, maybe I would like it. But as of right now, I'm not. I'm just not on board. I haven't liked it, and I'm gonna see. I really want to see CBS put out something I will like.
Well, Supergirl is coming out in the fall.
Okay.
And they have really amped this show up. I really want to touch on the differences in the comic book and the show.
Okay.
They are coming from 2 different beginning points. Whereas when Kara Zor-El, which is the character that plays Supergirl, leaves at around the same time Superman does, but is caught in some type of time shift, and she shows up as a teenager in the comic book when he is a full-grown man.
So, can you tell me a little bit about who she is for somebody that doesn't know
She is
anything
the
about
cousin
this
of
universe?
Kal, which is Superman.
Right, so it's his cousin.
Yes.
Does she show up in the comic book universe from some being sent away, like you said? Did she leave?
She left at around the same time that it was being...
What is it? Krypton was being destroyed?
yeah, when it was being destroyed.
Okay.
She was originally introduced in 1959.
Oh, okay.
So she's been around for a long time.
See, I just don't. I'm not a Superman fan.
I'm not either.
Even in my not a superhero guy, I am not a Superman guy. I really just don't like the idea of having a hero that beats everything.
So basically, so in the comic book, Kal has to basically help her learn her powers in secret. And
Okay.
then she comes out at around the age 24 or 25, and she becomes Supergirl. The show, she shows up as a kid and then is raised. And the entire time, she just keeps it secret. And Superman, she interacts with from a distance. She just sees him as his late cousin. And in the public eye, she does not tell anyone, nor does she react to the fact that they are related. But in the show, it looks like the pilot is introducing a plane crash that her best friend is on, and of course she saves everyone, and she starts to work on her outfit. She's introduced, into the entire idea of what Supergirl is and what CBS is going to make Supergirl. Of course, it might not be the same, and hopefully they stick to the story and the way that she reacts to her main villains the same.
One thing that I've noticed in watching the trailer over your shoulder, as I tend to do, is that it seems like they're giving it a real lighthearted feel to the show.
Yeah, they definitely added the well, I guess it's lightheartedness, like you said.
Yeah.
There's no other way. It's not bubbly, but it's uplifting.
Well, Superman has always been, in my opinion, almost comedically serious, in that they take everything that's going on so seriously when you have the superhero protecting you. There's, plenty of room for quirky comedy and things like that, and it just looks like they're going to have that in Supergirl, which at least will numb my senses if I'm going to give it a shot.
I'm excited about it. Sadly, I think about 48 hours ago, maybe less, the pilot was leaked on the internet. And that is 6 months ahead of schedule.
It's going to happen. It's part of life now. I don't participate in it, and I think people who respect fandom in general shouldn't participate in it. If you don't respect it, if it means nothing to you, I'm not going to say that makes you a bad person. Those of us that do, though, should know that it's our responsibility as people to participate in the commerce with these people who are putting the content out.
Yeah, it's not a speed game. It's an art game. TV shows, reading, it's all artwork in the end. Someone created it for you.
I'm a D&D nerd at heart, and these are the bards of our generation. These are the people who are really getting into our homes even though we don't know them. And we got to respect what it is that they're doing. And I think first and foremost, we have to participate in the commerce, or it's not going to hold with the quality that we're used to. It's not cheap to make these really awesome shows. We said it with Game of Thrones, even though we were a lot more flippant with that. We did say that, they're not going to lose much from it. But with something like this, they really do have everything to lose. And it's not, like I said, I won't participate in that. I'm not going to seek that out. And I hopefully never will.
So speaking of Game of Thrones, what about that last episode, Josh?
Well, I want to talk about a few things with Game of Thrones. Let's go ahead and throw it up as we always do.
Spoilers!
Spoiler alert. It's been spoiler flag high. But we watched these Game of Thrones. This was the first episode that we actually missed and didn't watch until yesterday. And we just sat around chilling. I want to say the reason for that is that they're deviating from the story that I know as a fan. Not in a bad way, but I don't look forward to it quite as much. But anyways, we're talking about the last episode. I really, really, really enjoyed the last episode. I can't stress that enough. This past episode gave us a lot of things that, as Game of Thrones fans, we can really chew on if we give ourselves a chance. Without going too deep into it, I want to talk about the fact that there are a lot of negative things that I can point out. They're changing a lot. There's a lot of things that when I'm sitting there and I'm watching the show and I know in my heart the type of character that I'm watching and the things that they went through, I just ask myself why. How are they going to be able to communicate the same things to me when it comes to certain characters like Sam in The Night's Watch, when it comes to Tyrion, if they're completely changing all of the experiences that they had that lead up to these really pivotal things that have happened. One being when Tyrion meets who he meets, and another being when Sam loses his mentor at the wall. Both of those things happened, in my opinion, in completely different circumstances, and those circumstances were important to the continuation of their character development. So
the responses that the characters have, though, and this is, I asked you this earlier, and I do hate that they changed, because what you told me, what happened in the book, and what happened on the show last night, completely different. But yeah. Do you think the same outcome with the characters that are still alive are going to happen? Because it seemed like they were still pushing and prodding towards that specific destination.
Yeah, they really haven't changed a whole lot of direction that I can see, but what it brings to light to me is I just want to know how they're going to continue with the characters developing into who they're supposed to become. Because I know the type of character that Sam and Gilly are supposed to become together as a unit. And I just asked myself, well, how are they going to accomplish that now in the show? And to bring it up a little bit from the low point that I'm at right now with it, I have faith that with the author's involvement and the wonderful producers of the show, that they will be able to pull off those same emotional communications through those characters that I got in the book. So I'm saying these things as negatives, but they can be turned positive in the end. You could say, well, they changed it, but they still did a great job. And the main point that I can say that they've already done that with is Arya. They have completely changed the way things went down with her. They've added a character entirely. She never saw Daario Naharis again. Or no, that's not even, my bad. Daario Naharis is with Daenerys. She never saw Jaqen H'ghar again that I knew of. He never came back. He wasn't the old man. The old man in the House of Black and White was the old man in the House of Black and White.
Yeah, and that's it.
And in my opinion, with that particular character, the only negative that I see is how's she going to forget who Arya Stark is and how Arya Stark affected her life when a person from Arya Stark's life is standing right in front of her the entire time. But anyways, moving on from all of that stuff with Game of Thrones, I do want to say that the show is definitely living up to its standards, in my opinion. I've had a lot of people tell me they don't really like this season so far. They're not telling them anything about Bran. They're not telling them anything about, oh, my favorite character is not getting enough attention. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if your favorite character isn't getting enough attention in Game of Thrones, you better be fucking happy about that. Because the more attention that he gets, the less chance he has in the fucking show at all.
And, I mean, just to be a nerd about it, I don't care that your character isn't getting a lot of attention. You better care about the entire story arc as it is, because that is what you're watching Game of Thrones. You're not watching your favorite character every other episode.
I agree entirely with that. And just to supplement that thought process a little bit, let's just be happy that a high fantasy show is dominating the charts when it comes to the HBO deals right now.
Completely
that it's doing
agree.
so well, because I think that the high fantasy genre has spent decades in a dark corner, just shining itself out. Over there in the corner nobody's looking at, looking wonderful and beautiful, and it's finally being drug out into the public eye, and I love that about it. Let's go on a little bit from TV and Game of Thrones. We've got a few movies that we really wanted to hit on, and we're getting close to the end of the podcast. So one thing that I wanted to talk about in the movie area, both of us have had a chance to see Mad Max. I'm sure everyone listening has heard or seen the praise that Mad Max deserves and is getting.
It's the best movie I've seen all year.
It is my favorite movie in 2015, without a doubt. And I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon. You were telling me that the same main bad guy from the first Mad Max played the bad guy in this one. I think he did such a great job. Even though his face was covered up 9/10 of the movie, he did a wonderful, wonderful job of just being that bad guy, building you against him. And even though this is a movie about explosions and fast cars and crazy accidents, when the story came through, top-notch storytelling.
Oh, the story was amazing. And yes, Toe Cutter, the actor that played the original, and like I said, I think he's in his 60s. And as a 60-year-old man, I mean, he jumped up, he said, yes, I'm going to do that part, and he played it extremely well. I mean, his voice hasn't even changed. So if you remember the first bad guy in the first Mad Max series, and then you watch this one, his voice is just priceless. It's to the point. It's dark. And, it's demented sounding. And like you said, the story arc. The story in this movie is amazing. Gasoline. It's off by the wayside. We have gasoline. Guns. We can't run out. We have a bullet farm that they describe. Just a city that's probably full of just stacks on stacks and caches of bullets. But what they really focused on is humanity, because without hard labor, without sacrifice, without death of the human race, nothing will be rebuilt. And they definitely had all that. And
well, the Citadel itself is like the hidden pasture, and none of the citizens of the Citadel really know that. It was just, what is it, Immortal Joe and his crew.
Yeah, Immortal Joe and his sons, which were all birthed. By the way, the army that Immortal Joe leads all have leukemia, which is
that
a
what it
crazy
is?
concept. I love that concept. That's the reason why they have white skin, because your blood cells just multiply and multiply, and you start to lose red blood
Well,
cells.
they called it the half-life.
Yes, and with leukemia, it is a half-life. Once you have leukemia, you don't live long with
Okay.
leukemia. You have to have blood transfusion constantly, which is
and
why
the
they have
blood
blood
bag.
bags. Yes, correct.
Okay.
The chrome on their teeth, which was really cool, symbolizes their god. I loved how
the
they
New
used
Age Norse mythology that they had.
the fact that they used religion as a product of force and will was great. Book of Eli did the same thing. The main bad guy did not care if the Bible had any type of particular message, but he knew in the time before, 30 years before all the earthquakes and stuff, that book had power and that
Right.
book had meaning. And Immortal Joe does the same thing. No matter what, he amps his guys up with this, we're going to Valhalla. It's okay to die, because as soon as you die, you're going to be reborn again as another war boy. It's never ending. And I really like the focus on how the director didn't give any ease on it. Everyone was top notch with their look. The dialogue was sick. Even with the guy at the bullet farm, when he was blinded and he starts to describe his guns as as instruments, and how the trumpets are going to play, and then his singing was him shooting, which was great.
I just think that the whole movie itself took this idea of over-the-top storytelling and just threw it out there. I've been into that type of storytelling in anime since I started my foray into anime. I really, really love the action-packed, every second I'm watching your show, this is going on and it's awesome. I really just enjoy it. It's something that is new, I think, in the movie industry. When the action movies used to be, let's see how big the explosion and awesome the stunt can get. When I think that the newer action movies are about the snowball effect. They're about let's just make it go crazy for longer and more entertaining for longer, and let's see how long we can get people to continue wanting to watch this symphony of destruction. Really,
It really helps that the movie was frame rated the same way that 28 Days Later was.
oh, it felt real like gritty. It just had that same feel.
Yeah, they do the same exact frame rate as that movie, so that's realistic frame rate. So when you're first watching the movie, guys, I don't know if you experienced this as well, but the first 5 minutes, everyone's moving super fast. It looks like they're being fast forwarded, when in reality, that's just a chopped up version of what it would look like in real life.
Yeah. Well, I think Mad Max is just a really good cap on the discussion this week. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
I agree. That was a good talk, man.
I'm just going to go ahead and say, if you haven't seen Mad Max, the Brewman's Bottle gives it its approval. This is a movie we all need to go see. I'll go see it multiple times. I don't even care. So we're getting right around toward the end. It's been a great time sitting with you guys this week. As always, we really, really enjoy our time where we get to just siphon through all the different entertainment topics that we talk about in our everyday lives. And as always, we want to just welcome you guys back, and please just hit that subscribe button and get on this with us every single week. Leave us a comment if you've got something that you want to talk with us about. We're just chomping at the bit to talk with you guys.
Chomping at the bit.
I mean, we really want to get involved with the different discussions that you guys are having with your groups of friends. We haven't talked a whole lot about LARPing and stuff, but just even if you're going to bring in conversation that we haven't talked at all about, bring it on, man, and we'll make it significant for you guys as it is for us. But like I say every week, subscribe, like, comment, and until next week, this has been Josh.
And this is Matt.
And this has been the Call to the Brewman's Bottle.